This is the Less Insurance Dependence podcast show with my good friend Gary Takas and myself, Narain Arul Raja.
We appreciate your listenership, your time, and most of all, we appreciate your intention to reduce insurance dependence in your practice. Our goal is to provide information that will help you successfully reduce insurance dependence and convert your practice into a thriving and profitable dental practice that provides you with personal, professional, and financial satisfaction.
Welcome to the Less Insurance Dependence podcast. I'm your host, Lester De Alwis. This podcast is designed to help dental professionals build profitable, patient-focused practices with less stress and less reliance on insurance. Before we begin, a quick message from our sponsors who's sponsoring this episode. That's Echo Marketing. Echo Marketing is offering a complimentary marketing strategy meeting where their team helps practices attract high-quality patients and grow through strong online visibility. You can book a complimentary session by visiting lessinsurance.com/marketing-strategy-meeting. And if you're looking for mentorship or guidance on building a thriving practice, or an insurance independent practice, you can also schedule a complimentary coaching strategy meeting with Gary Takas at thrivingdentist.com/CSM. So today, I am excited to welcome Laura Johnston. Laura works closely with dental practices to help them document systems, align their teams, and create consistency that supports long-term growth. And in today's episode, how SOPs align your team and reduce insurance dependence, we will explore how documented systems help practices stay profitable, confident, and align without relying on volume. Laura, we are so excited to have you here. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Lester, for the invite. I love talking about this. And also, for all of you listening, take advantage of that great offer that Lester just offered for that complimentary call. Invaluable. So
amazing. Thank you, Laura. So let's start at the foundation. What made you realize that documenting SOPs is key for practices that want to reduce insurance dependence?
Necessity, really. First of all successful businesses need documented SOPs to thrive. It really doesn't matter the industry or the goals. We all need those because SOPs really are the recipe for your practice. I like to think of it like cooking. If you're cooking a stew, yeah, sure, you can throw in whatever's in the fridge and whatever seasoning you want. But if you really want your favorite chocolate cake, right, that's a different story. You can't skip steps. You can't guess measurements. You can't change the order because believe me, I've tried that and it goes sideways real fast. So, dental practices are the same way. Some things can be flexible. But your most important workflows, the ones that impact your patients, the ones that impact your team sanity, those really need to be that recipe, right? So every practice is different. So we don't want to, there's templates out there, there's all kinds of things out there to help you guide that SOP process. But having the recipe for your practice, for your best flow, so it comes out right every single time. But back to your question, we know that insurance issues and reimbursements and claim denials and all of the things that go with insurance is one of the biggest pain points for in a practice. So as much as we know it's a total pain, deciding that you're going to reduce the PPOs can be stressful, right? That can be a scary announcement. Insurance usage kind of has created guardrails for us, right? They're forced systems. But when you take that away, now you have teams that don't know how to explain their fees or how to talk about their value confidently, or now you have inconsistent workflows. And also we have those bottlenecks because most practices, everything lives in someone's head. All that knowledge is up here. And so if you've made changes, then it's really difficult to follow that change because you don't have any reference points. So to me, of course, SOPs are my love language. So I think, though, if you're going to have that big of an operational change, It's just a kindness to your team to document them so that clarity is how your team operates from a place of clarity. We noticed that successful insurance independent practices have one thing in common, and it is having them documented. So you're not relying on memory or personality or insurance rules. And so they really become like, I guess, the equalizer, right? They protect the patient experience, which is so important. They allow our teams to act with confidence, setting our teams up for success. So often we just expect our teams to know, and they don't know what they don't know. And so if we really want them to be able to act with confidence, we need to give them the tools. Yeah.
Amazing. I love how you brought that perspective about, when you're cooking some food, you can't just keep putting things on. It has to have some kind of order and organize. So, I love that perspective. And that's a great way to, tell the listeners why this is very important. Now, many practices say that they have systems, but nothing is written down. I think you already mentioned this, but now, what problems does that create when a practice tries to move away from insurance?
Well, the biggest problem is the left hand's not talking to the right? Interdepartmental miscommunication. I would say that's probably number one, team confusion and that inconsistent message. How we're describing fees or answering patients' questions. If you get one answer from someone in the back and then you get a different answer from someone up front. So to me, that's probably the biggest problem. And then what does that impact? That impacts our financial systems. So how we present the fees fee presentation, payment options. I think that practices should start with scripting, expecting someone to know how to have those conversations and deal with objections. Just because they may have done it before, if they've never really been trained on it. And of course, once they get a good feel for it and learn it and use it, you don't need those scripts anymore, but you really do need that as a part of your SOPs so that if you're bringing on someone new, they now know the language of your practice. Or if someone in your team needs to get retrained, some of those things you don't deal with every day, right? And so you might forget. So having that resource that's accessible, not in some dusty binder that you have to go search through. So having it digital is really important. Having it searchable is really important. And of course, all of the revenue management, all of those are tied together, right? So
yeah.
I actually had a practice. I have a little story for you. I had a practice that I was called into, they were just constantly complaining about the insurance issues, right? And the practice owner kept saying that he wanted to reduce the amount of insurances they took, all of those things. Well, the office manager got tired of hearing about it. And nobody was doing anything. He just wasn't doing anything about it, just a lot of talk. So she literally took it into her own hands and without communicating it to anyone, sent a letter to all of their Delta dental patients telling them that they weren't going to be in network anymore. And you can imagine the nightmare this caused for the patients, the practice owner, the whole team. It was not good. It was not a good way to go about it. So really, as part of the process of making that decision, having those conversations, documenting it so that you're just really, you don't want it to go that way.
Exactly. Now, the next part is about, how do you align this? Now, how do clear SOPs help align the team when changes like reducing PPO participation or shifting to fee-for-service are introduced?
What was the question? How does it help align the team? Yeah. So, well, first of all, you have to have team buy-in. A lot of times when there's change, there's not I think we kind of talked about this a little bit, but again, that confidence, having well-written SOPs, they're not just about like the steps. It should include the why. Like if we all understand why we're doing this and why it matters, and then also the steps. So all of our SOPs, when we write them, they include the purpose, which is the why, the policy, which is the rule, and then the procedure, which is the steps. And then, of course, the who's responsible for that. So well-written SOPs really, I mean, to me, they create a freedom, really. So if somebody doesn't show up that day, or if you have a unique case, having the freedom to if someone's gone, right? Like, we still know how to communicate, or we know, even if it's not our role normally, having a place to go for it. You might not do it as great as the person who normally presents the fee plan, but at least if you have a resource to guide you through that process, you can still manage those things. So I think that's really key. So why the practice is doing it, how it supports better care and time and outcomes, and what success looks like for the team. Like, these will have to be things that are communicated, of course, in team training, but then you need that resource, that documentation to be able to go back to.
Yeah. And now the other thing is, now which areas of the practice should be documented first to support profitability and consistency without relying on volume?
Yes. So that's a really good question, because not all SOPs are equal, right? Like, you can document every little nitty-gritty thing in a practice, but trying to document everything at once can be very difficult, and probably is a mistake to go at it like that. So having those first ones that, of course, impact revenue, the ones that impact patient trust, right? So being able to talk about money is a trust issue. And then, of course, the ones that build team confidence. But as it relates to this specific topic, like becoming insurance independent, I think the biggest thing is how fees are explained, right? Starting with that scripting. Those financial conversations can be very difficult. How to have those conversations, those value-based conversations on how, when you're taking insurance, there's so much insurance justification to why you're doing what you're doing when it relates to the treatment plan, right? But if you remove that, and it's actually about the patient and their experience and what their actual needs are, being able to have those conversations, again, it needs to be taught. We don't all just know how to show up and have those conversations. And then, of course, the payment options and policies, those have now changed. So anything that's going to be different that impacts the revenue and those conversations with the patient, those have to be documented first. Handling objections, right? Because this is new for the patient as well, and they probably love you. But if you're now not, in network with their insurance, how are you handling their objections confidently? Again, this needs to be some scripting, so that, and maybe even do some role play, so that your team has some confidence around having those conversations. And then also, I mean, these are my top 5. Financial agreements, and getting the proper signatures, and kind of tie the little bow that you tie on the top of that conversation with the patient.
Yeah, amazing. Now, when it comes to accountability, how do SOPs help the team confidence, accountability, and patient communication during an insurance transition?
Well, I like to think about it like going to a foreign country where you don't speak the same language. It's very intimidating, and it's scary, right? So SOPs are just basically the language of your team. And when you're all speaking the same language, that alone brings confidence. When you know what you're supposed to do and when you're supposed to do it, I mean, that builds confidence. And not only for the team, but for the patient. So yeah, to me, SOPs are just speaking the same language.
Exactly. Amazing. Now, for a practice that wants to start this year, what are the first 3 SOPs like you recommended documenting to support long-term growth and independence?
So again, it can feel very overwhelming. I don't want my clients to feel overwhelming. And so sometimes we just start with where the most pain and potential risk is, right? Looking at the workflows that, so it's not just about this SOP in a silo or this SOP in a silo. It's like, how does this impacts this? And to me, again, that should be a conversation where everyone kind of sits down and says, I hate this when this happens because, and they have some buy-in to the conversation. Because if you just come to a practice, and believe me, when we were new, we were so excited. We wanted to, change everything for a practice and just get it all documented. But really, that's very difficult to do. So starting with where the biggest pain is or the biggest risk, what causes the most daily confusion, right? Like, looking at your day, what causes the most mistakes or rework, where money gets kind of lost in the process, like what's that workflow look like? Of course, compliance is always a thing. So these are some of these things, but I mean, I could list lots, right? Like if you looked at our checklist of SOPs that we have in our templates, you would get lost in it, right? So again, just having that conversation with your team, starting with what is causing the most stress to the whole team, and honestly, just starting there. And then we have a free resource. You can check them off as you go, right? So that you make sure that eventually you have all of the SOPs you need, but you build them out in a way that feels good to everybody. Everybody gets buy-in to the conversation about, even if you don't choose to do it the way like I want it, but I get to have a voice around it. It's really helpful to have that for the buy-in of the whole team.
All right. Yeah. You mentioned some resources. Would you like to let our listeners know where you can find these resources?
Yeah, thank you. So I just on our website, www.mydentalsop.com/resources. There's a bunch in there. You can get to know, like, and trust us just even from some of our resources. And that's the best way to reach out. But yeah, take advantage of those because it really can feel overwhelming. I don't want it to feel overwhelming. I want it to feel like that it's a team effort, creative process to make going to work fun again.
Exactly. This whole conversation is about we working together and about basically making sure you're not alone, whoever is listening to this episode. We want to make sure this episode or this series of episodes that we are doing today is basically benefiting for you in the future. So, and with that in mind, if somebody wants to have a discussion or even a chat about their practice, want to discuss with you, get an idea, what would be the best way to contact you?
At My Dental SOP on all the socials, but the best way really is through our website. You can see, you can schedule a call with us. You can see all of the suggestions we make and the product and services we have. So at our website.
Amazing. Thank you, Laura. So Laura, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing so much insight and practical advice on systems and alignment.
Thank you so much for having me, and thanks for all you guys do. Appreciate it.
So the key takeaway is practices that document their systems create clarity. That clarity builds team confidence, improves patient communication, and makes reducing insurance dependence possible without chaos. And this podcast is about taking action. Like I mentioned earlier, if you're looking to do a health checkup on your online visibility or your marketing, you can schedule a complimentary marketing strategy meeting with Equimarketing at lessinsurance.com/marketing-strategy-meeting. And if you are looking for a mentorship or if you want some help regards to your practice, book a complimentary coaching strategy meeting with Gary Takas at thrivingdentist.com/CSM. Now, all these resources that we just shared on this episode are all complimentary and that can help you move towards a stronger and more independent practice. So if you found value in today's episode, please share it with a colleague or friend who can benefit from reducing their insurance dependence. And thank you for spending your time with us today. I look forward to connecting with you again on the next episode of the Less Insurance Dependence podcast. Until then, keep moving towards a thriving independent practice.